Hello, everybody. Now, there is a big Psy-Op underway with a new story, which is in the papers around the world, actually, about the events happening in Amsterdam at a football match on Thursday, the 7th of November. So, a couple of days before I'm recording this video. Now, if you believe the newspapers and what they're saying, then some Jewish supporters from Israel who flew over with the team Maccabi Tel Aviv were attacked for no apparent reason whatsoever, and they have been subject to a terrible pogrom, a 21st century pogrom. This is what we're being told, and the King of the Netherlands has made a statement saying, "We have failed Jews like we failed them in the Nazi era," and so on. And it's the worst thing that could possibly ever happen in a European country. But this is nowhere near the whole truth. In fact, it's probably about a quarter of the truth, because what the papers are doing, the mainstream media and governments who are condemning this and so on, are leaving out the first two-thirds or 75% of the story of what happened. So there was a football match, obviously, between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax Amsterdam. So, of course, football supporters went from Israel to the Netherlands to support the team. But among the football supporters, I'm sure most of them were decent, ordinary people, just wanted to support their team. But there was a sizable element of hooligans. And embedded with these hooligans were Mossad agents. And during the match and before the match, they were making quite openly racist chants, saying very, very derogatory things about Arabs in general and what is happening in Gaza, the genocide that's happening in Gaza, and ribbing people, just making fun of this as though this is some big joke, when actually tens of thousands of innocent people have been slaughtered there. After the match, you can clearly see many citizen journalists have reported this, that a gang or gangs of Israeli hooligans picked up metal pipes, wooden clubs, rocks, were going around as a marauding, group of thugs, burning Palestinian flags, attacking Arab taxi drivers in Amsterdam, and attacking local people who looked like they were Arabs, who looked like they were Muslims. Now, I'm not, in saying this, I'm not supporting immigration. I'm not saying that I support the fact that there should be a lot of foreign citizens from any place, Arabs in the Netherlands. There shouldn't be. The fact is that we've had decades of replacement migration. I'm the opposite of saying this. I don't think that in Amsterdam there should be an Arab area, a Moroccan area, a Libyan area, a Somali area, and so on. Amsterdam, it should be a Dutch city with Dutch people. Dutch people walking around, serving people in the shops, doing the jobs, working in hospitality, even driving the taxis. That's what Amsterdam should be. But obviously, you've had decades of governments that have initiated and continued replacement migration. So now you have a lot of areas of Amsterdam that are overwhelmingly Arab and Moroccan. Again, I don't approve of that, but that's the situation that we're in. In that situation, you have large groups of Israeli hooligans with Mossad agents going around to these Arab areas and intimidating the Arab population, winding them up, burning Palestinian flags, saying that it's great that we're, that what's happening in Gaza. I'm not going to specifically say what's happening for the videos, but you know what's happening there, and just making fun of them, winding them up, provoking a reaction. And of course, they got the reaction that they wanted. So, if you have a group of people going to residential areas and burning things and shouting at people who are inside and, saying horrible things, really disgusting things to the people that are in the buildings, you're either going to shut yourself away, and hide, or if you are a man who can fight, you're going to join with other men who can fight and stop people from harassing you, and as they say in the UK, causing fear, alarm, and distress, which is what was happening. So groups of Moroccans mainly, as I understand, but other Muslim groups contacted each other on WhatsApp on their phones, and said, well, let's all meet together and sort these people out. Which is what happened. So, but that's the point where the media picks up the story as though nothing had happened before then, and there was no provocation, no intimidation, no harassment, no marauding Mossad agents wandering around Amsterdam looking for a fight. Which is obviously what did happen. And there are many, many citizen journalists all over X and other social media platforms that you can see reporting on this. So this is a huge psy-op, and we are now having a narrative created, which is the opposite of what happened, leaves out the reason for what happened at the end, and serves a number of purposes. And so the first purpose that it serves is to portray Jews as victims, when in this particular case, they weren't victims. They were provocative victims, if you like. So they went with a purpose to wind people up, get a reaction, film the reaction, and say, "Oh, we're victims," and therefore the world needs to support the Jewish community by giving us more police resources to protect us and so on. But also, this feeds into the continuing move to create narratives in the popular sphere, in the public sphere, that support getting to war with Iran. And this has been a goal of the deep states, the military industrial complex of the West, centered in the Pentagon and the United States for many, many years. I mean, it was 2003 that General Wesley Clark gave his very, very well-known speech where he said that the people upstairs in the Pentagon had got a plan to go to war with 7 nations, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, and finishing off with Iran. And that hasn't happened yet. They've gone to war and with most of the other countries, destroyed those countries or in the process of destroying them. They want to get to war with Iran. And so this is being talked up all the time now. It's been talked up for over 2 or 3 years, maybe more. You can go back and you can see, perhaps 5, 6 years, people have been trying to get people to support the West and Israel going to war with Iran. This feeds into that. The other thing it feeds into is a very subtle thing, is that a lot of the papers today, the media outlets today in the West, are saying, pro-Palestinian terrorists organized a pogrom on their WhatsApp messaging service on their phones. Now, of course, that's completely not true. They were defending themselves. Imagine if it wasn't Jews going to an area and burning Palestinian flags and shouting obscenities at residential buildings. Imagine it was working class white people doing the same thing. Perhaps you could say that some similar things happened after the mass murders that happened in July in England, in Southport, where 3 girls were murdered, 8 more were stabbed, 8 more attempted murders by a refugee or the son of a refugee who had been looking at Al-Qaeda training manuals. And imagine, after that, some white people went and shouted at some buildings where there were refugees. They got pummeled and hammered by the government and the police and the media, as though they were demonized as the worst possible people that could exist. But the Jews who were supporting this football team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, who traveled to the Netherlands with Mossad agents, were doing exactly the same thing. If this was white people, the papers would be condemning them to, the pit of hell. But these are Jewish hooligans. They're getting a free pass, and they're actually saying they are victims. They're not even considering what they did to provoke the reaction. So the thing is, by the headline saying that the pogrom was organized on WhatsApp, this is another seed to try to get people to support more surveillance of what you do on your phones. So they're already trying in the UK and the EU, not in America under Donald Trump because he supports freedom of speech, but totalitarian governments like the ones we have now in the UK, in most EU countries, want to stop people from messaging each other or sending any message or communicating with each other in any way at all that cannot be surveilled by the state or the police. They want every single thing that goes in on your phone, on your email, on the, whether it's talking on the phone or sending a message on the phone, to be open for the government to look at. They don't want people to have encrypted messaging services. They don't want people to be able to communicate privately at all. They want total surveillance and control over every aspect of everyone's life, even down to the conversations you have with your family and friends and community. They don't want you to have privacy. They want to destroy privacy and surveil you completely. And so this feeds into that narrative. Oh, well, Jews are not safe in Amsterdam. This is like the Nazi times. WhatsApp is the problem. This is because of that. If these Muslims didn't have WhatsApp and couldn't communicate with each other, then we would have been able to stop this pogrom from happening. But it wasn't. It was just a reaction to a group of thugs and hooligans provoking them. And if you go and provoke a load of men who are physically strong, but emotionally very volatile, which they are, you're going to get a reaction. You just have to have a bit of common sense to work this out. That they're in a country that has devastated Gaza, is devastating Lebanon, is oppressing Palestinians in the West Bank, and they're going to another country and burning Palestinian flags. They're burning the flags of the people they're oppressing and ethnically cleansing, in front of they're people who consider themselves as part of the Ummah with Palestinians. So, you're going to get a reaction. That's just stupid. I would not even consider doing that. But this was, I would say, an operation. And it's a psychological operation to provoke a reaction, to create a narrative, which is now being promoted, incessantly in the media around the world, which is an inversion of the truth and is there to try to lay the ground for more war and more control and more oppression and tyranny in Europe and the UK. And we need to recognize this and speak out against these things from the very beginning. And there's not many people who are doing that, but I do very, very much thank the work of all the citizen journalists in Amsterdam who went around at great risk themselves documenting what was happening with this group or groups of hooligans from Israel with embedded Mossad agents who were creating chaos in order to provoke this reaction, which is then being reported on. So this is what's happening. We need to realize that and reject the Psy-Op, which is happening right now, because I don't want the West to support a war with Iran. I don't want us to be getting to war with Iran and bombing Iran and destroying another nation. There's a lot of Christians in Iran. There's actually a Christian revival going on in Iran. There's a lot of good people there. They are a noble civilization. I'm not a supporter of the Islamic regime, don't get me wrong, but it does nobody, there's no benefit to anybody at all in starting to bomb another country. but this is what some insane psychopaths want to happen, and this is part of the narrative to drum up public support for that. And we need to de-escalate always. Iran has nothing to do with this, and we shouldn't be trying to get to war with Iran. We need to speak out. We speak against this wicked move to try to get us into another war of destruction, and may it not happen. Thanks for listening, everybody. Know your narratives, know what's going on. Listen to citizen journalists. Don't listen to the lying mainstream media. Thanks, everyone, and God bless you all.